amongst the emerging economies, we have Africa and Latin America as well as two potential markets which would help us in our economic growth if we are able to take an inroad into their markets. India is trying to make her presence felt in these unconventional markets, as I had mentioned earlier, not losing sight of the conventional markets that we already have made our presence felt in. The other challenge that even as we talk of the global slowdown, even as we talk of the slowing down of our own Indian economy happening, the other problem that actually stares us in the face is the huge current account deficit that we have in our country, the CAD, as we call it. And the CAD, as we all know, results when our imports exceeds our exports, when there is investment in non-productive areas, like for example, we have a large section of the population actually investing in buying gold. And besides that, we also have the burden of our crude oil imports that we do on a large scale. But the question is, how do we keep the CAD within control? A 5% plus CAD is certainly not good for a growing economy like India. And it is here that we need to look at three important aspects to tide over our CAD, the current account deficits. And that would be A, the disinvestment policy that we are looking at. B would be to invite a lot of investments into our country, which means the FDI. And 3 is last, to go for external borrowing. And external borrowing is something that we don't ever want to think in the current situation. The disinvestment policy, yes, we are looking at disinvesting the public sector that we have, but of course we also need to create the confidence in the people of India that disinvestment does not necessarily mean privatization, because there is this very large apprehension looming in the minds of the people that the minute you start disinvesting, it is only going to lead to privatization, which would probably have an adverse impact on the employment in that particular area. But we also need to tell the people that we, being a welfare state, we need to muster up all the resources that we have if we are talking of inclusive development, where we are looking at providing or giving welfare to the people of our country. Just for an example, we have the RINL, which is the Rashtriya Ispat Nigam Limited, which is the Vizag steel plant in my constituency. The moment we started speaking of disinvesting about 10% of the RINL, there was a huge uproar in Visakhapatnam itself. People feared that there was going to be privatization. People feared that there was going to be loss of employment. So there was a huge uproar when we had to literally take the employees to the concerned minister and give them the confidence that here we are not talking of privatization, but simply mustering up resources to reach out to the people of our country. So these are the kind of apprehensions that people have. And therefore, the other way that we look at to improve the economic scenario in our country is to welcome FDI, or rather to open up our doors, the foreign direct investment. 1991 was when the first wave of liberalization actually happened. Nobody ever believed at that point of a time, when the Indian economy was being opened up, that we would probably be sitting on such huge foreign reserves as we were, or as we are. And probably nobody even believed that we would be able to achieve a consistent economic growth rate, which we had achieved until probably a couple of years ago. But all this did happen after we opened up our doors, after we ushered in the first set of liberalization policies. And today, there is a strong feeling that time is ripe again for opening up our doors, for allowing FDIs to come in. Now, the simple question then would be, what is an FDI? And we all know for a fact that FDI is an investment made by an individual or a company in another country, which probably enhances the productivity of that particular country wherever the investment is going to. Or in other words, it would mean the moving of capital across geographical borders, but yet the investor's money is protected. And what comes with the FDI is something that the host country should look forward to. It would bring in a lot of best management practices. It would probably bring in good transfer of technologies, which is very important for emerging countries, more particularly a country like India, which has a huge middle class to cater to. And it would also bring in the resources that are required for gearing up our own infrastructure and for pulling up our socks and providing an opportunity for probably investors or industry existing around that very area to upgrade themselves to beat the competition that they have staring in the face in the form of FDI that is coming into their sector. So these are all opportunities that we are looking at. But even as we are opening up doors, we know again there are a lot of apprehensions in the minds of people, where we have one section of people say that yes, you want the Western countries or the advanced countries to take advantage of everything that we have, and what is it that we get? This was the kind of debate that we had concentrated largely around the FDI policy when we were opening up our retail sector. Not realizing or probably turning a blind eye to what would come along with FDI, which we were inviting into the retail sector, more particularly the agrarian community. There was a clause in the FDI policy which said that 33% of the investment that was coming into the retail sector must go into providing back-end infrastructure for the retail sector. And this was a boon for the agrarian sector because we were looking at construction of huge cold storage chains, probably mobile refrigeration vans, probably increased storage capacities for our grain as well as our food, our fruits and our vegetables. These advantages were in a way brushed aside, and probably the debate completely focused on how the Kirana shopkeeper around the corner was going to lose out on his employment or on his business itself. Let us not forget that it was not long ago, probably about 7, 8 years, or probably 10 years ago, that the same debate was whipped up when people said that Haldiram is going to go out of business. But today, Haldiram is a global brand because he lived up to the competition that was staring him in the face. He brought in better packaging techniques. He improved his own quality, which actually made him a global brand today. So I think we need to actually balance the pros against the cons and see how we can actually address the disadvantages that come with opening up the FDI sector. But even as we talk of opening our doors and bringing in and welcoming the foreign direct investment, we also need to know that we have a huge advantage with us, which is the large education system that we have, probably where the quality needs to be improved. We have a huge youth force with us, where we need to invest more in trying to improve their skills. These are again going to be challenges for the policymakers to address even as we are opening up our doors once again. But to the legal fraternity, I'm sure you will be tickled with few challenges here and there, more particularly when it comes to the land acquisition bill that we have passed. There is a two-way debate that is happening. There is one section which says that this probably is not going to improve the investment in atmosphere within our own country because the land prices are really going to shoot up and probably would have an adverse impact on the investment scenario in our country. Whereas we have another section of people who say that no, here is going to be a community who would be willing to give up their land because they're going to get 4 times the market value for the piece of land that he or she holds. So these are pros and cons that do arise when legislations are being made. These are challenges that need to be addressed even as we take every step forward. Even as I was listening to Justice Singh, when he said that legislations are made, but we need to keep the negative and the positive impacts in mind. But these impacts are something that we would actually face as we go forward with the legislations. And our legislations can be subjected to amendments even as we experience them by taking them to the Parliament, where deliberations are held, discussions are done, and yes, the legislations are then amended. So these are challenges that largely come up. Of course, we have the employment, the labor laws that need to be amended again. So these are again going to be challenges even as we open up the doors for FDI within our own country. I'm sure there is going to be a technical session on this which will in great detail go into the legalities, into the legal aspects of the challenges and issues that would be arising of the FDI policy within our own country, even as we have opened up large sectors of anywhere between 20 to 100%. We have the retail sector that has been opened up. We have the telecommunications that has been opened up. Of course, defense, yes, though some people do feel that it needs to be opened up more, we have pegged it at around 29%. And on a case-to-case basis, the defense minister says that we can take up investment on a case-to-case basis because that being very strategic for the country and the larger issue of security would be involved. So here is a country with a 1.2 billion population. Here is a country with an ever-growing middle class of 400 million yearning for better living conditions. Here is a country with a sustainable growth rate. And here is a country with the strongest democracy in the world, which cannot be ignored and marginalized. And even as the world looks to India, looks to investing in India, there are bound to be legal issues that would arise. And of course, I'm sure we have a wonderful legal fraternity that would be willing to support the government in every which way, even as it looks forward to giving the best that it can to the person living in the last rung of society. With these words, let me thank INBA for having given me the wonderful opportunity to be here with all of you and for sharing my views with you, and probably wait for the resolution that would come out to actually understand the legal aspects of FDI opening up in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Dr. Purandeswari, for a very refreshing, informative, and educative address. May I now request Shri Kaviraj Singh, the Secretary General of INBA, to come and give a vote of thanks. Let me add, Shri Kaviraj Singh is actually the spirit behind the movement called INBA. Shri Kaviraj Singh.
I am humbled by the words by Dr. Kashyapji. He is our guiding factor. I am just merely a worker working on his behalf. And I really thanks participants we have participants from Swiss and US and different part of India. And I'm really humbled by when I met Dr. Purandeswari, the Honorable Minister, that she is on the time. It's changed the entire perception of our foreign delegates. Every time they see But I can assure one thing that INBA is trying to work in a positive manner. We don't. It's a completely non-political organization, and we emphasize on doing the right thing in a positive way. We don't touch upon the controversial issues, but we would like to participate or encourage the good practices under the guidance of Justice B.P. Singh and Dr. Subhash Kashyap under leadership. So we have a next panel that's discussing about the public policy issues, how to make a law, and that's basically industry-wise. This is industry panel, our industry panel. They will be discussing how and better we can make law, and it's really interesting that I absolutely agree that everything has the other side. Even every medicine has a side effect. So we can't deny that any law is being made by the government. We should not keep criticizing it. And unfortunately, in India, people keep criticizing but don't make any positive contribution to anything. So I will welcome our members and foreign delegates to give a deliberation of what we can do from our own side and as a positive contribution to our nation and to our society. And I would like to recognize Jim Duffy and Axel Heck. Both are being my mentor and my good friend who has been sharing their experience, global experience, and so that helped me to broaden my perspective. And I hope we are able to live up to your expectation for another year. And thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.
They are not, yeah.